Hi, and welcome back to You Don't Know Her, the Mindset podcast all about creating the best life for yourself, one by design, not by default. And today, I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Harrison Emmonds. How are you doing, Harrison?
Yeah, not bad, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. So, Harrison, you are an actor from the northeast of England.
I am, yeah.
Yeah. How are you finding the current climate? New year, new you, all that sort of thing. You've got exciting projects coming up. Give us kind of an overview.
Yeah, not as much as last year, but yeah, got a few exciting things. A couple of short films, a few self-tapes done already, so
Nice.
Off to a good start.
Nice, brilliant. Anything you can disclose? Was anything you're happy to kind of talk about? Anything kind of early stages, is it? Or?
Well, you just had a man on. I've got a project with him coming up.
Yeah.
What have I got? Finishing off a web series that we've been filming for over a year, so that's pretty exciting.
Oh, wow.
That should be out this summer. I think they want it to be out for.
Yeah.
And then the other stuff it's still like being worked on. So
Yeah.
I'm producing a film this year.
Oh yeah.
For the first time, yeah, first
Brilliant.
ever producing role.
Yeah.
World War II film.
Okay.
Called Man on the Hill,
Wow.
which the crowdfunding for at the minute. But we're hoping to film that in a few weeks to a month.
Oh,
So
amazing.
that should be fun. Got a lot of stuff sorted for that.
Right.
It's just a lot of phone calls and emails and
Yeah.
doing stuff I'm not quite used to yet. So
Yeah,
I'm trying to get into that role.
It's good. It's good for you to branch out though beyond the acting as well.
Yeah,
see if that's-
it makes it easier, I think, for making your own projects.
Yeah.
So it's like getting your own constant work
Yeah.
rather than having to rely on auditions and stuff like that.
Yeah. So how did you come about that? I mean, are you involved in kind of the script writing, the story development, or anything
So
like
one of the first proper films I did, that was very Yorkshire, proper films I did was Tinseltown, which was a few years ago. I did it at uni while I was in my second year. And Jacob Stockton, he's the director and writer. This is his latest film, and so originally he wanted me in as like a little cameo, small role, and then he got me in, and somehow the conversation led to, as I was saying bye, he was like, "Do you want to produce it?" And I was like, like, what was that? And I said, yeah, I thought I'd give it a shot, and I am really enjoying it. And apparently I'm doing a good job, so it could be a future thing, I guess.
that? Yeah. So what are the main roles for you then as a producer? What's kind of your day to day when you actually are working on films?
So I had to like go location scouting, which is all the way up near Berwick for one of the locations. When it was absolutely like snowing and
Horrible.
really crap weather. But it was a ton of fun. Like we went to wild places. You do things where you're like, should I be doing this? Like, we went to a church where there was nobody there, and we rang the owner, and he was like, yeah, you can just go in and look around. We were like, oh, bit creepy.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of like location scouting, casting. Like we're finalising casting, sorting some props out, and getting people to sign contracts.
Yeah.
A lot of chasing up.
Yeah, a lot of admin, a lot of to let you do what the big vision is, isn't it?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
You've got to put that
So
forward.
it's interesting. I am enjoying it, and I think I will do it again, but just not as much as acting. I definitely prefer acting.
Yeah, okay. So we'll go more into the acting, but I'm actually keen to go right back to the very start now. So,
Right.
So you as a person, as a kid growing up, what is that first thing that you went, you know what, I want to give this a go? Is there anything? Was it films that you were into as a child, or kind of did you just have that kind of desire to perform? What was kind of it for you?
It sounds really cliche, but I was actually in year 6 when I realised I wanted to be an actor, and they were doing the like school play, and it was Hansel and Gretel, and I read for Goblin 4, I think it was.
Amazing.
I don't know what the switch was, but I just got up and I just read it in my normal voice, and then they wanted me and my best mate at the time, who was a lass, they wanted us to be Hansel and Gretel. So then it was like okay, I guess I'll do it. And I fell in love with it immediately. And then I remember the same year it was quite bad because I was in year 6 looking back at it. But I don't know if you know the film The Mist?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Love
Thomas
that.
Jane.
Yeah.
Fell in love with his acting.
Yeah.
And immediately just wanted to be an actor. We had to do like a career of what you wanted to do, and when I first started it, this was before the Christmas play, I wanted to be a football player, because of course I did. And I changed it to, I want to be an actor, but it was basically just, I want to be Thomas Jane.
Yeah.
So there was a big photo of like Thomas Jane, and everyone else had like all these like footballers and stuff like that, and then I was the only one who just had this random actor.
Yeah.
But I was just obsessed with his performance in that film.
Yeah.
and then since then I just wanted to be an actor.
Yeah, it's amazing what film can do.
Yeah, the power of film is insane. Because I remember when I first watched it, my sisters were watching. They're a few years older than me, and they were watching it, and I just caught the ending of it because I was not watching horror movies at that age. And I just remember the ending just caught my attention, and from then on I was like, I want to watch this film, and just loved it. But yeah, the impact of film, it's that like last shot of just the music, and just, if you haven't seen the film, watch it. Like, it's so good.
Yeah, so that's kind of that's the initial spark. Then I suppose you wanna be Thomas Jane. You wanna be Goblin 4 in every production you can get your hands on.
Yeah, literally.
So then we're going forward beyond that. Maybe what's the next stage for you then? Is it in secondary school it becomes a bit more serious and you having to do things outside of school? How's that working?
Yeah, so I did drama in year 7, and then in year 8 and 9, for some reason, I don't know why schools did this, but they kind of gave you the subjects. So I didn't get drama, even though I was dead set on being an actor. But I was very shy in high school, so it was kind of like, I was whatever. Still wanted to do it. And then when we went to pick our stuff for GCSEs, I chose drama. And the more I worked it, the more I enjoyed it. And then it was around 6th form, I was kind of like, right, serious, how do I approach this? Drama schools, looking at all that. And that's when I did my first ever film, was in 6th form, and it was just a student film, but it was amazing. Like, they threw an actual house party for it, because it was a house party scene. So that was like my first like adult house party as well, but I was on camera. It was a ton of fun, and that was when I was really like, right, how do I approach this where I can be qualified to be able to do this for a living? Because at the time I was like, I think I'm good enough, but I don't have any proof. So it was more like, how do I approach this like from the real world standpoint?
Okay.
But yeah, around late secondary school to 6th form.
Okay. And that's the point when you want to take it really serious. Did you go to specifically study film, at an acting in a college or beyond? Or?
No. So I just went to regular high school, and then the 6th form was built into it, and we shared it with another high school. And the drama was actually held at the other school mainly, especially for the second year. And they had a much better department than us. So like that school was kind of brought up. It was very actually ahead of its time. It was very like disabled friendly. It was just mental health based. It was called Ralph Forsby in Leeds. Whereas like my school still had all that, but they were kind of built around it. Whereas my dad went to the first ever edition of my high school when he was a kid. So it was an old school. But they had like a whole like actual theatre and like auditorium and stuff, so I loved working there. Even though I really wanted to do film and TV over stage, it felt like actual like actor training, whereas drama before all that was just kind of like, just a lot of people did it to kind of like, I can mess around and, be taught for it. But yeah, I didn't go to anything like special, like an art school or anything like that. That was when I went to audition for drama schools, which I didn't end up going to, but yeah, that was the approach.
It doesn't seem like it's held you back not going to a drama school as well. You've still managed to carve your path.
I thought like when I was that young that you had to go to drama school. Like if you didn't go to drama school, you wouldn't make it as an actor. But I mean, I haven't been to drama school, and it's 5 years later. And I'm still doing what I love, and sometimes getting paid for it, so I can't complain.
Yeah, which is ideal. And one of the first things I heard about you from someone, I can't remember who, said Harrison just gets to kiss all these beautiful women on this thing. So I don't
that'll
know.
be a man.
Is that a man that said that?
Yeah.
But it sounds like an a man thing to say. So I mean, even that in its own makes it all worthwhile, doesn't it?
Yeah, I guess it's one of the perks of the job, I guess. Yeah. Like with stuff like that as well, it's always a privilege to have constant work, even if it is unpaid. Like I've done so many shorts with a lot of local companies up here who always get me in for an audition or get me to help out with projects, and it's always appreciated. Like, obviously in this economy as well, money is important, but I don't think people realise just how nice it is to have someone think of you regardless of when it comes to if they want to pay you or not. Like, even then it's still a massive compliment, like, because a lot of people would still do it for free, but just to be approached for projects, it's kind of like a, I don't know, it makes me feel like I've made the right choice when people come to me and still are like, do you want to do this, or do you want to read in for this? It's like, okay, I've done a good enough job to impress you on this, so I'm doing something right. Yeah,
it's nice to feel useful and wanted, isn't it? And to know that people respect you and the work you've put into to the point you're at now. So, obviously you mentioned what you're doing now with kind of film projects and indie films and things like that. Kind of getting into that, what was that like for you? Was it obviously not coming in as the lead, I suppose, kind of coming in as an extra, was it? Or were you getting kind of lines straight away, or what's kind of...
It was more like, I guess, supporting characters at first. Like that one I did in sixth form, I think there was like 5-6 characters. And that's also when I learned, because I went in completely blind with film, and that's when I learned that you had to kind of do the same thing over and over and over again. And that's when I was like, oh, this is film. Which, it's tedious, but I think, like, especially speaking to other actors, it's one of, like, I mean, it's different for every actor, but it's probably one of the favourite things about the job, is being able to have the skill of, like, doing the same thing over and over and over exactly, and being able to switch up a little bit, but to the point where you can, like, cut between. And a lot of people, like, family and friends who've watched films and then seen how it's made, and they're like, oh, we have so much more respect for actors now, because it's actually a really difficult job to not only do like a really hard scene, but to do it again and again and again exactly the same, to the point where audiences don't notice. It's one of the magics of cinema, I guess.
It's all forms of acting. I mean, even things like theatre and live shows, and you know that for the most part it's going to be kind of the same performances, but it's a craft in itself to dedicate that much time and effort and skill and practice to get to that level, isn't it? And then taking it, I suppose, on a set when it's really you're in front of the camera. You know, it's kind of depending on who, isn't it? So.
Yeah, and it's like, because obviously you have no idea what's going to be used in the edit. So then the whole time I was sat there like, oh my god, it's not my line, but am I seen on camera? Am I acting? Am I going to be in this? It was a nerve-wracking experience, but after that it was like, that's what I want to do. Like. Film, like, I'll do any acting, and I've done all kinds of acting, and I love anything that surrounds acting, but film is like, it's where my heart is. Like, I love watching films, being in films, just everything about film.
When you watch films now, are you analysing the performances of the other actors, or are you still enjoying the story and the...
Both. I did film studies actually at GCSE, and one of the first things I said was, if you don't want to like ruin films, don't do this course. And I was like, oh damn, I really like films. But I love it, because I could be watching something and really like immersed in it, and then at the same time I'm like, how did they do that? Or oh, I bet they did that. Or like, sometimes I'm that guy who like, we watch something and then I'm like, they're like, oh, what do you think as an actor? And I'm like, yeah, I could tell they used a different shot when they were cutting between these two characters because of the continuity. I don't like go like full cinema sins, like ruining it, but just being able to have the knowledge how film works. Like, even walking in here with this setup, I was like, oh, this is cool. Just something about it where I'm like, yeah. It's like you're making magic, aren't you? Like, so many films, because there's so much being produced and put out every day. It's like people don't often see the magic behind it, whereas if you know that, you're like, I know how that trick works.
You've learnt the information through the course, but that's kind of for knowledgeable. You can separate that from,
it's kind of like a separate, you can still... I guess it shows how good the film is as well. Like, if you're still immersed but fascinated by how it's made, the film's done its job. I think even if maybe there was a flaw in the film of like story-wise or whatever, there's still that, if you're still getting that intrigue to go and find out how is this made, or like just stuff about the film, I think it's done its job. Whether they intended it or not, it's still done its job in getting people to look at the film.
Yeah, completely agreed. And would you apply that to kind of all genres of film as well, or are there any specific genres that speak to you? I know we briefly touched on horror and...
I did my first horror film last summer. It's 2025 now. Still getting used to that. Yeah, did my first horror film last year, which was the slasher, which I've always wanted to do. And that comes out, I think they're going for this summer release. I'm not sure, it might have been delayed, but it's very much a USA release, sort of niche market. But that was a ton of fun. I love the Friday the 13th series. Always wanted to do a slasher film. Horror in general, I'm a fan of. Love a good action film, but I just love drama, Seven, stuff like that. Just something that has really good performance. Or I love characters always get me. So if it's a good script, I'll love it. But if it's a really good character, I can spend a while working on. A man, we did a film called Light in Her Window, which he was DOP on, and he was the one that told me about it initially, and I didn't have to audition for it, luckily, because the director wanted me to play one of the roles, and they told me about it probably 6-7 months in advance. So I got to kind of just do a big spreadsheet of what the character was, the background. I think I kind of annoyed her a bit by messaging me what's the background of this, this specific thing, but I was lucky enough to have creative freedom on it, and just kind of had this massive spreadsheet of notes around this character. So anything that you can delve in and really work on the character, I love.
Yeah, and does some of that come from you as well? Not just because obviously you're asking them the questions, but if they've not got answers to certain elements of a backstory, do you fill that in and create a backstory?
Yeah. So I really I can do if someone just wants to be oh, go out here, act like this, your name's Daniel or whatever, I'd be oh, okay, I can work with that. I can always get whoever's in charge, what they want done, I can do it. That's kind of your job as an actor. But I can't really get into it without some form of right, what's the background, do my notes kind of thing, as well as working on the script. But I think character's a massive one for me, because if you're not committed to your character in terms of their backstory and finding kind of yourself in them, I don't think you can really put on a true performance to that character. But I have OCD, so that might be the OCD part of me that kicks in there, which I'm not complaining too much about, because it's helped me with characterization. So
it's about creating an element of believability, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. There was one thing I got taught when I did actor training, which was as an actor, there's one thing you don't really have to tell anyone that's directing the project or being in charge, and that's it's kind of your own secret. They had a phrase for it which I can't remember right now, but I did a play once and my character had this ring. It wasn't this one, it was a different one, and I never put it on. I just always had it in his pocket, and that to him was his old wedding ring, because the character was married, but it wasn't ever really involved in the script. It was just kind of mentioned that he was married, and he was having an affair with this other character in the play, and I always kept it in his pocket to kind of it's he's clinging onto it, and it's just there. And another actor, when we were in the wings, was oh, did you forget to take your ring off? And I was no, that's just my character's wedding ring. It just helps. I think it kind of brings me back to the core of who the character is by just having the ring in the pocket. Because it was kind of throughout the whole play, all the characters know he's having an affair and know it's wrong, and he his excuse in the play, it was Memory of Water. His excuse in the play is that his wife has I think it's cerebral palsy. Not 100%, but illness that makes her very ill. So he still has love for her, but he's having an affair because she's very ill. And it's not really delved on. He has a bit of a conversation where he mentions it, but just having that ring, I think it really helps the performance when it came to that subject, because it was just he's still got the ring. Why does he have the ring? And then
Yeah.
You can see how I like delve into it, because it shoots off all these questions that you'd answer, and then I think it really adds to the performance.
And it's all things that it goes beyond the scope of acting as well. It's things that people on set design and things will think about that. And think, how can that, how can we give little visual cues and clues to what could. And from your point of view as well as an actor, something like that, like wearing a prop wearing something, does that help you get into character, or how do you get into character?
Yeah, massively. Yeah. I think costume's so important. Like at rehearsals, I could show up just like wearing this and get into character, but I think once you're in the costume and you've got an audience, I think the costume it's kind of like an empowerment. I want to say, like, when you put on the costume, it's like you are now this character. Like, I don't usually dress like this, and I think it's almost like putting a uniform on for your job. Like, once you're in it, you're like, right, I'm in it now. Let's do what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
And then it just helps with the characterization. But I think having more time to work on the character kind of helps you influence the costume as well. Like, how would you wear it? Like, if you might be say, like, given a tie, it's like, right, he's wearing a black tie, and then straight away, as an actor, I'm like, right, how does he wear the tie? Why does he wear it like this? Is it a bit scruffy, or was he, has this thing in the story impacted how he did his tie in the morning? It's all, just touch my mic. It's all stuff like that. Yeah, I think that's really where you can kind of be like, all right, this is how it's done. Yeah,
that's really, really interesting to hear. So I think, because the overall point of this podcast in a way is to see people forge that path from the world of entertainment and showing kind of what's possible and progression. So it sounds like you're very deliberate and diligent with a lot of your choices you make in acting and in filmmaking, but what would be your advice to someone that was where you were, when you were in secondary school or looking to get into acting? What's kind of your thing that's helped you the most, would you say, or some advice you could give?
Don't rely on drama schools, because when I was growing up, it was very much like you need to go to drama school. And I just went and did a regular course at Northumbria University, did theatre and performance, shout out to them. And I'm still here doing what I love. I might not be in a position as great as people who went to drama school, but I've met a lot of them who were in the same position as me. And it's 1% of the world's actors are able to do it for a living, so don't let that put you off. Like, I still have a full-time job, and I still act, and I want to be able to do it for a living. And just stick at it. Like, there's been so many times in my, I guess I can say, career, where it's just like, oh, is it worth kind of just going at it and being at the same level? But it is, because there's so many actors in the world who do it all their life, and they might not do it full time, but they're still doing what they love. And just, like, I've met the minority of actors who want to be, like, in it for the fame. Just don't approach it like that, because it's just not how you approach this industry. Like, you're in it because you love it. If you're in it for that, you're in it for the wrong reasons. I've met a few people like that in the industry, and it's not a good look. And it's not really realistic. Like, you have to be realistic. Like, always, don't aim for the top of the ladder, just aim for the next step up. Just, where can I go from here? How's it going to help? Is it worth the investment I'm going to put into it? And, like, set an end goal for yourself. Like, I'd love to be in Hollywood films, because you're getting paid, high budget, amazing films. I've always loved film. But if you're in it because you're like, oh, I want to go to Hollywood just so I can get swarmed, it's like, not worth it.
Yeah, I think it's that patience element, and it's trying to not compete with other people.
100%, yeah. And if you stick at it, you will get somewhere. At least that's my belief, whether it takes 10, 15 years. If you want to do it, I don't think you really care when it hits, as long as you're able to do what you love. Yeah, that would be my advice.
Amazing. Well, I think that's a beautiful point to finish on, to be fair.
Thank you.
For my final question is, if the people do want to find you, where can they find you?
On my Instagram, Harrison Harrison.Emmonds, but I think a 1 instead of the I. Yeah.
And a
Believe
Q
so.
somewhere.
Or put like Harrison Emmonds acting and my acting account comes up.
Yeah, I'll put it in the description as well.
Thank you. But yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Cheers, thank you very much.
Appreciate it,
Cheers.
thank you.